Please, mighty human. The Iron Nomads took my mother. You're my last hope. Save her. The twin suns of Zarathus were setting when Kael heard the desperate footsteps behind him. He turned, hand instinctively moving to the plasma pistol at his hip, only to find himself face to face with a young Valerian girl. Her green skin was streaked with dust and tears, her violet eyes wide with terror and something else, hope. Please, mighty human, she gasped, falling to her knees before him. The Iron Nomads took my mother. You're my last hope. Save her. Kael grimaced. He wasn't mighty. He was a freight hauler who'd made the mistake of landing on Zarathus, 7 for cheap fuel. The locals had somehow gotten it into their heads that all humans were warriors, ever since the Earth Defense Force had driven off the KRYLL invasion 20 years ago. He'd never even held a gun before leaving Earth 6 months ago. Kid, I think you've got the wrong. I saw you, she interrupted, her small hands clutching at his worn jacket. I saw you fight off those scavengers at the market yesterday. You moved like lightning, like the warriors in the old stories. Kael remembered the incident. 3 drunk idiots had tried to rob him, and he'd gotten lucky with a few panicked punches. Nothing heroic about it. Look, he said gently, trying to pull away. Your mother, I'm sorry, but the Iron Nomads are raiders. Professional killers. I'm just a cargo pilot. The settlement guards are who you need to. The guards won't help. Her voice cracked. They said it's too dangerous. That she's probably already dead. But she's not, I know she's not. The Nomads always keep their captives alive for 3 days before. She couldn't finish the sentence. Kael felt his stomach turn. He'd heard stories about the Iron Nomads. They were a fleet of raiders who swept through the outer colonies, taking what they wanted: supplies, technology, people. The people were either sold to labor camps or worse. How long ago did they take her? He found himself asking, already regretting it. 4 hours. They have a camp in the Rust Canyons, 15 kilometers north. I followed them partway before. She looked down at her scraped knees and bleeding hands. Kael closed his eyes. This was insane. He should walk away, get back to his ship, and leave this cursed planet behind. He had deliveries to make. A life to live. He wasn't a hero. But when he opened his eyes and saw the girl's face, so young, so desperate, he thought of his own sister back on Earth. What would he have done if someone had taken her? What's your name? He asked quietly. Zara. Zara, I need you to understand something. I'm not a warrior. I'm not some mighty human from the legends. If I do this, we might both end up dead. Or worse. But you'll try? Her eyes shimmered with tears. You'll try to save her? Kael let out a long breath.
Yeah.
I'll try. The Rust Canyons earned their name. Ancient metal deposits had oxidized over millennia, turning the rock formations into towering spires of orange and red. Kael crouched behind one such spire, using his ship's scanner to map the nomad camp below. 12 raiders. For patrol drones. A fortified position with clear sight lines. This was a suicide mission. He'd left Zara with his ship, promising to return with her mother or not at all. Now, staring at the enemy encampment, he wondered if he'd just lied to a child. The captives were being held in a makeshift cage near the center of camp, 8 Valorians, including a woman who matched Zara's description. They looked exhausted but alive. Kael checked his weapons. 1 plasma pistol with a half-depleted charge pack, 3 fragmentation charges he'd bought for mining asteroids, and a vibra knife that had seen better days. Professional killers versus an amateur with makeshift weapons. The math didn't look good. But as Kael studied the camp, he noticed something. The raiders were confident, too confident. Their perimeter was strong, but their attention was focused outward. They didn't expect anyone to be foolish enough to attack them. Maybe foolishness was exactly what he needed. Kael moved silently down the canyon wall, circling to the camp's eastern flank where a fuel depot sat unguarded. He placed all 3 fragmentation charges on the largest tank, set the timer for 3 minutes, and ran. He was barely back in position when the explosion tore through the night. The fuel depot erupted in a fireball that turned darkness into day. The raiders shouted in confusion, half of them rushing toward the flames. Kael moved. He sprinted into the camp, pistol blazing. The first raider went down before he even knew Kael was there. The second managed to raise his rifle before Kael's shot punched through his chest plate. The patrol drones swiveled toward him, weapons charging, but Kael was already sliding behind a cargo container. Energy bolts sizzled past his head. His heart hammered in his chest. This was nothing like the action vids. This was chaos and terror, and the very real possibility of death. But he kept moving. A raider rounded the container, and Kael drove the vibra knife into his gut before he could fire. Another came from the left. Kael shot him in the leg, then the head as he fell. His pistol whined, charge pack nearly depleted. The captives were 10 meters away. Between him and them stood 4 raiders, now fully aware of the threat and taking defensive positions. Kael did the only thing he could think of. He charged. It was stupid. It was reckless. It was what they'd never expect. He fired his last shots as he ran, taking down 1 raider. The others fired back, but Kael was moving too fast, too erratically. He crashed into 1 raider like a freight train, using the momentum to drive them both into the cage's support beam. The raider's head hit the metal with a sickening crack. 2 left. They were circling him now, energy blades drawn. Professional. Confident. Ready to carve him apart. Kael was exhausted, unarmed, and outmatched. But he was also angry. Angry at men who stole mothers from children. Angry at a universe that made people like Zara beg strangers for help. Angry at himself for almost walking away. When the first raider lunged, Kael caught his wrist, twisted, and used the raider's own blade to slash across the second attacker's throat. The first raider's shock lasted just long enough for Kael to headbutt him, grab his blade, and finish the job. Then there was silence, broken only by Kael's ragged breathing. He stumbled to the cage, found the control panel, and smashed it open. The door swung wide, and Zara's mother emerged, her eyes wide with disbelief. "The human," she whispered. "The legends are true." Kael shook his head, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. No legends. Just a guy who couldn't walk away. When Kael's ship lifted off from Zarathus, 3 hours later, Zara and her mother stood at the spaceport, waving. The settlement guards had rounded up the surviving raiders, and the captives were free. As the planet shrank behind him, Kael stared at his hands. They were shaking. They'd been shaking since the fight ended. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't mighty. He was just a man who'd gotten lucky and done what needed doing. But maybe, sometimes, that was enough. His communicator chimed. A message from Zara. "Thank you, mighty human. I'll never forget you." Kael smiled despite himself and set course for his next delivery. The universe kept turning. There were always more places to go, more people who needed help. And maybe, just maybe, he'd stop running next time someone asked.